بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Dear brothers and sisters, I want to reply to a small clip of Mohammad Yasir, Deobandi speaker, there was one of his small video online asking why the Ahle Hadith do taqlid of one Imam in Qira'ah, meaning Asim al-Kufi, and at the same time they oppose taqlid of one Imam in Fiqh, meaning from Kufa. They were referring to Abu Hanifa, and it is lower than the Quran. And basically I'm going to mention 5 points, small points in refutation of his claim, because he's comparing two different things. He's comparing different modes of recitation of the Quran with the sayings of the Imam in Fiqh, and they are totally two different things which cannot be compared. First of all qira'ah and ahruf, the different modes upon which the Quran was revealed, were all revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. All of them, the 7 ahruf, different ways of reciting the Quran, are all revelations, while the sayings of the fuqaha is not revelation, and they themselves differ in themselves. Some will differ, some matters to be halal, others will say it's haram. Some will say this matter is sunnah, the others will say it's not sunnah. Some will say this matter is forbidden, others will say it's permissible, whether it's regarding purity, whether it's regarding food. They will give opposing rulings in matter of inheritance. So how can we compare the revelation to the saying of fuqaha, which are the result of human ijtihad, and which is prone to error and mistake? So first of all, this shows the great ignorance of Muhammad Yasir, and we make dua to Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides him and protects the ummah from such mistakes. Misguiding the layman in such a way that comparing the revelation to the saying of human beings. So what is ahruf and qira'ah? Basically, this will need a different lecture. I will refer the people to the book in English, Introduction to the Science of the Quran by Dr. Yasir Qadhi, and it explains the different sayings of the scholars and the strongest of the view. But basically the Quran was revealed upon 7 ahruf, but the 7 qira'ah are not the 7 ahruf, they're something else. And the 7 qira'ah, some people even divide it into 10. So 7 ahruf were 7 modes of recitation upon which the Quran was revealed. Some scholars say 7 dialects, some scholars say 7 different ways of reciting the Quran, but these 7 ahruf and the qira'ah, they came after. At the time of compilation of Uthman, he did not preserve all the ahruf. He only preserved all those ahruf that could be preserved in one writing, because in the ahruf sometimes one word could be recited instead of another one. Sometimes there were extra words, and in some of the ahruf there were less words. So obviously those words, the differences that could be saved in the same script of Uthman, they were preserved, and that's why we have differences in the 7 or 10 famous qira'ah. Some differences into words and letters are based because all those ahruf that could be preserved in one copy, Uthman, they preserved them. And if one word would come in place of another one, or there were extra words or less words in some ahruf, these ones could not be preserved. So that's the ahruf and qira'ah. But one can refer to this book, and we can see in the ahadith mentioned that the 7 ahruf, all these ahruf, they were all revelation. it is narrated in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim that Ibn Abbas reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, Jibril recited the Quran to me in one harf, and I recited it back to him. But I requested him to increase the meaning the numbers of harf, and he continued to increase it for me until we stopped at 7 ahruf. You know, and there's another narration of Imam Muslim. Ubay ibn Ka'b reported that the Prophet ﷺ was once on the outskirts of Medina when Jibril came to him and said, Allah has commanded that you recite the Quran to your people in one harf. The Prophet ﷺ replied, ask Allah's pardon and forgiveness. My people are not capable of doing this. Jibril then came and said, Allah has commanded you to recite the Quran to your people in 2 ahruf. The Prophet ﷺ replied, I ask Allah's pardon and forgiveness. My people are not capable of doing this. Jibril then came a 3rd time and said, Allah has commanded you to recite the Quran to your people in 3 ahruf. The Prophet ﷺ replied for 3rd time, ask Allah's pardon and forgiveness. My people are not capable of doing this. At last Jibril came for the 4th time and said, Allah has commanded you to recite the Quran to your people in 7 ahruf. And in whichever ahruf they recite, they will be right. Meaning all the 7 modes and different dialects and the variances, they're all coming from Allah, and whichever ones recite, he will be right. So how can we compare with the saying of one faqih, this eating a horse meat is halal, another faqih says eating horse meat is haram, and how can we compare 2 different readings between the differences among the fuqaha and the sahaba and tabi in fiqh? You know, some sahaba, they will give the inheritance to the brother with the grandfather. Some they will say, no, if someone dies and leaves only the grandfather and his brothers, his grandfather will take everything and the brothers will receive nothing. You know, these 2 things are contradictory among the things in fiqh. So how can we compare learning the different modes of the recitation to the difference of the fuqaha? It shows the extreme ignorance of the muqallidin. I mean, extreme ignorance, such a way we ask Allah to guide them, to open the eyes of the blind followers. I mean, we really feel compassion for these people. And it shows that actually taqleed is for the animals. There's a chapter in books of hadith about taqleedul ghanam, because the Prophet ﷺ, when he would go to Hajj and the ships, he would make ropes, necklaces, and put shoes on them, and put these ropes made of shoes around these ships. So when they're lost, they're brought back by the people to Mecca, because these animals are reserved for the sacrifice. So you can find in books of hadith, chapter, taqleed of the ghanam, taqleed of the sheep. Taqleed is for the animals. It is not for human beings who Allah has given them intellect and reasoning. But may Allah open the eyes of the muqallidin, blind followers. And there's another famous hadith regarding this in Bukhari and Muslim. Umar ibn al-Khattab narrated, I was sitting in the masjid when I heard Hisham ibn Hakim reciting Surah Al-Furqan. I was almost about to jump on him in his prayer, but I waited until he finished and then grabbed him by his garment and asked him, who taught you to recite in such a manner? He replied, it was the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I responded, you are mistaken, for indeed I learned this surah from the Prophet sallallahu, and it was different from your recitation. Therefore, I dragged him to the Prophet sallallahu, and complained to him that Hisham had recited Surah Al-Furqan in a different manner from what he had taught me. At this, the Prophet sallallahu told me to let go of Hisham and ask him to recite Surah Al-Furqan. Hisham recited in the same way I had heard him before. When he finished, the Prophet said, it was revealed this way. And he then asked me to recite the same surah. When I had finished, he said, it was revealed this way, meaning also this way. Indeed, the Quran has been revealed in 7 different ahruf. So recite whichever one is easy for you. So all these different ways of recitation, which had differences of words in some of them had slight differences. We're going to see some kind, meaning some were singular form, some of them were in plural form. I mean, the same verb will be in a singular form, so same verb will be in a plural form, same verb will be in the normal case, in the other it will be in imperative case, meaning it will the verb will be in order instead of sometimes it will be a change in a synonymous word. So we're going to see some example of this revelation. So some of these ahruf were preserved in the Osmani compilation of the Quran, and that's why we have differences in the 7 or 10 famous qira'ah known. So the qira'ah of, for those who had Algerian, Tunisian or Moroccan friends, and they recited prayer behind them, they will note some differences of words from what we the Asian, from our qira'ah that is famous. Because they will read in Warsh or Qalun, and they will recite in Surah Fatiha, they will recite Maliki Yawmiddin, while we recite, the Asian and the others, Maliki Yawmiddin. So Maliki Yawmiddin is king of the Day of Judgment, and Maliki Yawmiddin is owner. So there is a slight difference in meaning, because a king is owner as well, but the owner he's not obligatory a king. So both wording are not contradictory to each other, and they both add a specific meaning, and they complete each other's meaning, and both of them are revelation. So whether we recite like the Warsh recitation Maliki Yawmiddin or Maliki Yawmiddin or Maliki Yawmiddin, it does not change anything. And likewise in Surah Ikhlas, we recite Kufu Wan Ahad, they recite Kufu An Ahad. So instead of the waw, there's a Hamza, but it does not change the meaning. Likewise, another example quoted by Dr. Yasir Qadhi is in Surah Baqarah, verse 259, about the story of the person who asked Allah to resurrect the donkey. He asked, when he saw the city destroyed, he was thinking, how would Allah resurrect them? And then Allah made him sleep, and then he resurrected him, and then he saw him, he brought back life to his donkey. So in one of the reading of Al-Kisai, Ibn Amir and Asim and Hamza, which are among the 7 famous reading, it is read كيف ننشزها with a za. This is in reference to the resurrection of the donkey. The word nunchizuha means to cause to rise. The verse therefore translate, look at the bones meaning of the donkey, how we raise them. So nunchizuha meaning how to cause to rise. Look how we raise them. Meaning how we cause the bones to join one another and stand up again from the dust. So this is one meaning. But the second reading by Abu Amr Nafi and Ibn Kasir is كيف ننشدها. Instead of the za, we read with a ra. كيف ننشدها. So it's a different in one letter, and it has a different meaning. Nunshiruha means to bring to life, to resurrect. So the first one meant to cause to rise, and this one means to bring to life, to resurrect. The verse then translates how we resurrect it and bring it back to life. So both readings give different meanings, but put together, these readings help for a more complete picture. The bones of the donkeys were raised up from the dust and resurrected. So both meaning are correct and complete each other, and this is another miracle of the Quran. Likewise, at the end of the same verse, in one of the reading, it is قال أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير, which translate, he said, I know that Allah is indeed capable of all things. And another reading is قال أعلم أن الله, in the same it will be translated as, it was said to him, know that Allah is capable of all things. So instead of the person saying, I know that Allah is capable of all things, it's Allah saying, know that Allah is capable of all things. And both of the meanings complete each other, because Allah said to him first, say that Allah is capable of, know that Allah is capable of all things. And then he said after, I know that Allah is capable of all things. So the same verb, one of them says, A'lamu, I know, and the other is Allah saying to him, no. So this is 2 different readings. Both of them are revelation from Allah. And learning them both is not contradictory. We can learn whichever qira'ah we choose. Some of them learn them all, and this is one of the point I will make in the fifth point, which is ridiculous, because Ahle Hadith, they learn the 7 or 10 famous qira'at. They don't stick to one. I mean, there are many madaris in our Jamia Lahore Islamia, where alhamdulillah I had the chance to learn few years there. We had Qari Ibrahim Muhammadi, and he was teaching the 10 famous qira'ah, and after him his students in Pakistan, they were teaching the 10 qira'ah. So Ahle Hadith, we don't just follow one Imam, we follow others as well in qira'ah. We learn the 10 qira'ah and we teach them. So again, the comparison is ridiculous. And sometimes these differences in reading will change the meaning in fiqh as well, jurisprudence. In Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 6, in the English translation, "O you who believe, when you intend to pray, wash your faces and your hands up to the elbows, wipe your heads, and wash your and your feet up to the ankles." You know, in Arabic, the verse reads, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha qumtum ila as-salati faghsilu wujuhakum wa aydiyakum ila al-marafiqi wamsahu bi ru'usikum wa arjulakum." So in one reading, it would be arjulakum, meaning in accusative form, and in another reading it would be arjulikum instead of arjulakum, and this one will be genitive case. So in the accusative form it will be joined to the verb wash, faghsilu, if it is accusative, but meaning wash your faces and your hands up to the elbows, and then wipe over your head. Arjulakum, meaning arjulakum will be associated, because it is accusative, to washing. So the meaning will be wash your face and hands up to the elbows, wipe over your feet and wash your feet. But in the other reading, arjulikum, it will be related to the verb wamsahu because of the ba, so it will come to the genitive case, ru'usikum wa arjulikum. It will mean wash your faces and your hands up to the elbow and wipe over your heads and wipe over your feet. So so now there is a difference in the two reading, and the fuqaha, they have reconciled this by saying that the wiping over the socks is permitted. Thus, you know, the other verse about washing the feet is for the normal state, and for the reading which says wiping, if we arjulikum, it will be for wiping over the socks or the shoes. You know, this is what Zarkashi said. These two verses can be combined to understand that one reading deals with wiping over the socks, while the second reading deals with washing the feet in the case of not wearing socks. So this is among the miracles of the Quran, that all these differences of ahruf, some of them were incorporated in the 7 famous qira'ah, because obviously these differences that we've seen, Maliki or Maliki Yawmiddin, Nunshiruha or Nunshizuha, or the other ones, Arjulikum wa Arjulakum, because it didn't need adding extra words. So all these differences were kept in the Quran compiled by Uthman radiallahu anhu. But obviously in some of them there would be changes of dots. Some of them, instead of the wa, you will read it as a fa. You know, so instead of reading in the plural form, you will read it in singular form. So you do not need to change the word, you just need to change the punctuation in these cases. But obviously there are other differences. In sentence someone, a word would be used instead of another one. But these qira'ah, they're called qira'ah shadha. You know, those who have a different words. They do not meet the same conditions. And I will give an example of them. I mean, among the previous one, I mean, in Surah Shams, at the end we recite وَلَا يَخَافُ عُقْبَهَا, but obviously my Algerian Moroccans friend, they would recite it instead of Surah Shams at the end. They would recite فَلَا يَخَافُ عُقْبَهَا. And I would remember being adolescent when I was learning it and hearing it recited فَلَا يَخَافُ عُقْبَهَا. by our Tunisian and Algerian brothers, I mean, it was always confused me. Maybe I didn't learn it properly, but that's another difference. So it's not any difference in meaning. Instead of the waw, we read the fala instead of walaf. Fa, I mean, there is a difference of meaning between the waw and the fa, because the fa, it adds something to the tartib. It means after waw, it is Zaid and Amr, meaning simultaneously. Zaid fa Amr, there is some tartib coming. So in Arabic language, it will add to the meaning. But this is among the miracle of the Quran. But in Surah Al-Layl, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى وما خلق الذكر والأنثى. This one, in some of the ahruf, it was instead the third verse, وما خلق الذكر والأنثى. Some companions learned from the Prophet what ذكر والأنثى. You know, the beginning وما خلق would disappear, so they will recite it. وذكر, and there are many narrations in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. Hafiz ibn Kasir in his tafsir, he mentioned them that Abu Darda, he learned from the Prophet ﷺ what ذكر والأنثى. He did not learn وما خلق الذكر والأنثى. And there's a narration in Bukhari and Muslim that some people they came from Baghdad to Abu Darda. So he asked them, you know, he said, are there some companions of Abdullah among you? And meaning Abdullah ibn Masud. And they said yes. And he said, who is the best reciter of the Quran? أيكم يقرأ علي قراءة عبد الله. Who among you will recite to me the recitation of Abdullah ibn Masud? And they said, كلنا, meaning all of them. And then he asked, أيكم أحفظ, who is the most best memorizer? And they indicated, فأشاروا إلى علقمة, they indicated toward Alqamah, who is a famous student of Abdullah ibn Masud. And he asked him, كيف سمعته يقرأ والليل إذا يغشى? How did you hear him reciting meaning the surah والليل إذا يغشى? And he said, والذكر والأنثى. And Abu Darda said, قال أشهد إني سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ هكذا. And I swear by and I bear witness that I heard the Prophet reciting like this, and these people, meaning the others, they want me to recite وما خلق الذكر والأنثى. And he swear by Allah, I will not follow them. So there are many other narrations in Bukhari and Muslim regarding this, that some of the ahruf, they had less words, like in this case, some they had extra words. So obviously, because the people differed in this, and Uthman decided to, especially he decided, because it will lead to discord in different provinces, to gather them into one copy. And his copy he gathered the difference modes and ahruf as much as he could, those of letters, punctuation, or imperative form, plural form, singular form. But this one he could not kept it. So obviously when Zayd ibn Sabit collected this, obviously he could not incorporate this reading وَذَكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى that Ibn Masud and Abu Darda were reciting. But this one is revelation as well, though it is present in Qira'ah Shaz, but it is a revelation from Allah. And like Imam Tabari said, Allah did not obligate us to save us all. And Hafiz ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya mentioned this as well in I'lam al-Muqin, that Saddu Zariya, to block the means to discord, you know, they agreed, the Sahaba, on I mean basically some of them refused to, but after them all the Qur'an, they agreed on the copy of Uthman on these 7 lectures. So obviously some modes were left after وَذَكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى, but they're all revelations. So about the 10, comparing these 10 that are present now, the 10 qira'ah, and the difference among them, comparing them to the difference of fuqaha, is mere stupidity. I mean, I'm sorry for Muhammad Yasir, but may Allah guide him and open his eyes. I mean, there's so much fond of the taqleed. And you know that they've been brought like this, brainwashed that their imam is the most knowledgeable, the other imams, that I mean many of these stories are present in their books, Durul Mukhtar and others. I mean, they increased many weak narrations about the Fazail of Imam Abu Hanifa, who was a great faqih, but obviously that there were other scholars, some of them were same or more knowledgeable than him. And obviously, we say to these people that why you do not do taqlid of Umar and Abu Bakr then? You know, why you follow you follow imams after them? You know, Umar and Abu Bakr, they did not obligate the people. They say, oh, because you follow one imam in qira'ah, so you have to follow my views in inheritance. Some school and Abu Bakr and Umar differed. No, Umar did not say to people, you have to learn only my view and not the views and the dalil of other Sahaba. You know, this is none of them obligated their student to follow their opinions like they follow one qira'ah of the Quran. You know, I mean, this is totally ridiculous. None of the Sahaba did this. None of the Tabi'i said, you follow my way and you teach only my school of thought in the same way as you only learn one of the qira'ah. You know, this is for, at the same time, these people, they say we don't have quwwat ijtihad, we must do taqlid of the imam. At the same time, they come with arguments that none of the Salaf quoted. That they said, oh, you must follow only Abu Bakr's opinions, even if the hadith, it is well known that Umar ibn al-Khattab, he would forbid Hajj Tamattu. And even the Maliki today, they don't do Hajj Tamattu. Unfortunately, they do Hajj Ifrad from Africa, and then after they go to Masjid Aisha to do Umrah after. But Ibn Abbas, he said that I am saying to you, the Prophet ﷺ would do Hajj Tamattu, and you said to me, Umar and Abu Bakr, I fear stones will fall from the sky upon you. You know, so none of the Sahaba said you must follow only Abu Bakr's opinion, just learn his opinions, only follow Umar, and I quote you hadith, no, you must leave the hadith, you don't know usul al-fiqh, you don't know Arabic language. You know, this was not present at the time of Salaf, such reasoning. You know, the Tabi'i and others. You know, the layman, they would ask any of the companions, and sometimes the student of Ibn Umar, they would not follow his views, they would follow the view of, because they learned from different companions, they would differ from him. But such a way, such a taqleed way of learning religions, it did not exist in the first 4 centuries. The second, I mean, this is for the first one about the ahruf. The second ones, all the recitations are complete revelation. And the Prophet ﷺ did not order to learn each mode. The Prophet ﷺ said, you can learn this way, that's fine. You can recite this way, that's fine. He did not obligate Umar to recite in the way of Hisham. He did not order Hisham to recite the way of Umar. You know, so learning all the differences is not obligatory. You know, you can learn one, that's enough. While obeying the Prophet ﷺ and following his hadith is an obligation for all Muslims. You know. And obviously some hadiths did not reach the Imam. That's why even sometimes the Ahnaf, they leave his opinions. Imam Abu Hanifa students, in many cases we will see inshallah in different lectures, they do not follow Imam Abu Hanifa. So we cannot compare the qira'ah, the differences in ahruf to the differences of fuqaha. So now let's see some of the differences. Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, and he is free from all this Deobandis tasawwuf, this Deobandis bay'ah, all the hidden knowledge, all the muraqaban graves, all the letters writing magical stuff. And Imam Abu Hanifa, he's free of many of all these innovations done by the people of tasawwuf, isolating in caves and doing all that stuff they do. The Deobandi, I mean, especially the Hayati, I mean, the Mamati, alhamdulillah, they are better and they reject such a khurafat. And they say, we are Hanafi, our Imam does not believe that the dead can hear, so they don't go to the grave and believe that and ask the dead for any intercession. So Imam Abu Hanifa declared aqiqah when a new child is born to sacrifice some sheep for it. He declared it abrogated. And the Ahnaf after him, they declare it a sunnah. Some say it's permissible, some they say it's a sunnah. So they abandon the saying of their Imam. Likewise, on the topic of Muzara'a, it's topic about lands, agriculture on lands. Imam Abu Hanifa, all the Ahnaf, they do not follow his opinion, they follow the opinions of his students. And another opinion about renting the buildings of Mecca in the to the pilgrims, those who come for Hajj and Umrah, for Imam Abu Hanifa, it is forbidden. But the Ahnaf nowadays, they rent the buildings of Mecca and Medina to those who come for Hajj and Umrah. So how can we compare following an Imam in Fiqh to only follow one Imam in Qira'ah, while they themselves don't apply this analogy? And it shows that this analogy comes from the Khannas, comes from Na'udhu Shaitan misguided them. You know, it's a Iblis qiyas, because they themselves don't follow Imam Abu Hanifa's views. Sometimes they take the companions, and sometimes they also come outside the mazhab. Like Ashraf Ali Tanvi, he also opted Mafqud al-Khabar, the woman whose husband's gone to war or somewhere else for business, he doesn't come back, he's lost. They follow the opinion of Umar and Imam Malik that after 4 years she can remarry, you know. But Imam Abu Hanifa is 70 or 80 years, you know, and they choose many of the nowadays the Ubandi, they choose the opinion of Imam Malik and Umar ibn al-Khattab on this issue. So they themselves do not apply this analogy. So I have with me Kitab al-Athar of Imam Abu Hanifa. So the examples I've given, I will read them in English translation. Kitab al-Athar of Imam Abu Hanifa, compiled by his students, Imam Mohammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani. English translation, page, first one, the Aqiqah one, is on page 477. Bab Zakatu al-Janina wal-Aqiqah. So Muhammad said, 809, Muhammad said, Abu Hanifa informed us from Muhammad that Ibrahim said, there used to be Aqiqah in the Jahiliyyah, but when Islam came, it was rejected. فَلَمَّا جَاءَ الْإِسْلَامُ رُفِضَتْ. And the next narration, أخبرنا أبو حنيفة قال حدثنا رجل عن محمد بن الحنفية أن العقيقة كانت في الجاهلية فلما جاء الإسلام رفضت. Muhammad said, Abu Hanifa informed us, saying, a man narrated to us from Imam Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya that there used to be Aqiqah in the Jahiliyyah, but when Islam came, it was rejected. And then you can read in the footnotes, meaning it was abandoned. He only meant that its origin was in the time of Jahiliyyah, and it was then done at the beginning of Islam, and then later on, the text of this narration show obviously that the mazhab of Abu Hanifa is that the Aqiqah is abrogated, is no longer part of the Sharia. You know, so it is clear that it was fil Jahiliyyah, and when Islam came, it was rejected. So that's the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa, coming directly from his student, narrated from his student. And this is the opinion of his student as well. قال محمد وبه نأخذ وهو قول أبي حنيفة. Who adhere to this, and this is the verdict of Abu Hanifa. May Allah exalt, did he have mercy on him. So this is the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa. On renting the building of Mecca, باب بيع بيوت مكة وأجرها, it is narrated. So they have a narration up to the Prophet ﷺ saying, إن الله حرم مكة فحرم بيع رباها وأكل ثمنها. So Muhammad said, Abu Hanifa informed us, saying, Abdullah ibn Abi Ziyad narrated to us from Ibn Abi Najih that Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet said, Allah made Mecca haram, so sale of its house and consuming the money from that is forbidden. And the narration before this one, was they have a narration, أخبر أبو حنيفة عن عبد الله بن أبي زياد عن أبي نجيح عن عبد الله بن عمرو رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, so that it's marfu up to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. من أكل من أجور بيوت مكة شيئا فإنما يأكل نارا. وكان أبو حنيفة يكره أجور بيوتها في الموسم وفي رجل يعتمر ثم يرجع فما المقيم والمجابر فلا يرى بأخذه ذلك منهم بأسا. So they said, Muhammad said, Abu Hanifa informed us from Abdullah ibn Abi Ziyad, from Ibn Abi Najir, from Abdullah ibn Amr, that the Prophet said, whoever eats anything from the rents of the houses of Mecca is simply eating fire. So obviously, I mean, I don't know why the Hanafis have to explain why they don't take this hadith. Is it weak? And why their Imam gave verdict. Imam Hanifa gave verdict according to this hadith. Abu Hanifa used to deplore its houses being rented out during the Hajj and to someone who performs Umrah and then goes home. So for him it was, he deplored it. I mean, yakrahu for them it's makruh when it is mentioned in absolute sense. It is makruh tahrimi unless they say it is tanzihi. So for them it means it's forbidden normally. But as for the residents and those who come to stay for the purpose to study or worship, he saw no harm in taking rent from them. So Imam Abu Hanifa said it's forbidden for those who come for pilgrimage, for Hajj and Umrah, to rent the buildings of Mecca to them. But obviously if someone resides there or comes for a long period to study in Mecca, we can rent them the buildings of Mecca. وَقَالَ مُحَمَّدْ وَبِهِ نَأْخُذُ. And Muhammad said we adhere to that. So this is the official opinions of Imam Abu Hanifa and his student, that for them it is makruh. So again, this analogy does not work because they themselves do not take the sayings of their Imam. Imam Tahawi, he allows doing the 2 rak'ah after the final tawaf after Asr based on the hadith, and he goes outside the mazhab. Many of the Ahnaf went outside the mazhab. Now there's a Deobandi day, sometimes Maulana Taqi Usmani in his Takmila, in his Shar Muslim in Arabic, Takmila Fath al-Mulhim, he also said all the about the hadith of Khiyarul Majlis, all the explanation of the Ahnaf did not convince me. Amin Abdul Hayy Luknavi, many others Hanafi scholars, Shavalullah, they go outside the mazhab, Muhammad Hayat Sindhi, Abul Hasan Kabir Sindhi, many, I mean if we make the list. So nobody considered the mazhab of a faqih as a way of recitation of the Quran. And that's why even Maulana Taqi Usmani in his book on Taqlid, he also, we will see in a different lecture, also allows for those scholars, you know, for the erudite scholars, they allow him, if he finds a hadith according to his mazhab, to take up on the hadith. And Maulana Taqi Usmani himself on Khiyarul Majlis, he was not convinced by the Ahnaf. Maulana Sarfraz Safdar Khan Sahib, Muhammad Sarfraz Khan, a great Deobandi Muhaddis, in his book on Taqlid, he also has a chapter, we will read them in a different lecture, but he has a chapter, that we do not do Taqlid in the matters in which Quran and Hadith nusus ki maujudgi mein taqlid haram hai, meaning in the matters in which Quran and Hadith is clearly present, we do not do taqlid. We must have a dalil to not to accept the explanation. For him, we only do taqlid in the ijtihadi and qiyasi matters. Then he quoted from Shah Waliullah Dehlavi, from Shah Abdulaziz, his son, and his great son Shah Ismail Dehlavi, and even said that those who do not follow the authentic hadith, those scholars who do not take the authentic hadith but follow the saying of their Imam, they have some resemblance to the Christian and a part وَحَثٌ مِنَ الشِّرْك. So they quoted this from Ismail Shah Muhammad Ismail Shahid, inshallah, Dehlavi. So themselves, some forms of taqlid are shared from themselves. So we don't know why they compare the taqlid of the mazahib to the qira of the Quran. I mean taqlid of the fuqaha to the following only one imam in qira'ah. And the fourth point is, following qira'ah for Asim al-Kufi, this is not called taqlid. Technically, you know, following the Quran, following the Sunnah, this is not taqlid. Taqlid is to follow someone saying who is not hujjah without any dalil. This is the definition present in the book of Usul al-Fiqh. But if someone follows Quran, Hadith, Ijma, or Qiyas, this is not called taqleed. So following one way of recitation or following another one, he will have followed the Quran. So it won't be called taqleed. Taqleed is to follow the saying of a faqih without its dalil. Someone says this is haram, you say it's haram, you don't know the dalil. Imam Abu Hanifa, so some fuqaha say, riba is allowed in Darul Harb. You accept it without dalil. You have done taqleed. If someone says, whatever rulings they have and they follow it without knowing where it comes from, this is called taqleed. And learning the different matters, the different qira'ah, this is not called taqleed. Only for these people, even following hadith is taqleed, this is taqleed. I mean, this is not taqleed. Nobody said for following Imam Bukhari's judgment, following the judgment of a qadi or the verdict of an imam is based on dalil. If we follow his judgment, and we don't do taqleed of Imam Bukhari as well. Some fuqaha, Daraqutni, sometimes the Imam Albani, they've pointed to some weakness in Bukhari and Muslim. Some scholars are convinced that there's some shadz or weak hadith. So even at time of Imam Bukhari, some scholars did not agree on some rulings. Imam Bukhari weakened some hadith in Sahih Muslim. So when we accept a judgment, it's always based on dalil. And secondly, they have a dalil because they bring a chain of narrations. So we follow their chain of narrations, and obviously their judgment will follow it because it has basis. And then unless someone brings a proof in the chain or in something is weak in it, there's a disconnection or one of the narrator is weak. So following someone's tahqiq, this is not called taqleed. Likewise, following one qira'ah, learning only one and not learning the other, this is not called taqleed. These people, they do garbar on the definition of taqleed. They play with it, they trick with it, just to make look like the following just one imam is just like following the muhaddithin's ruling on hadith. It is just like following, they mix up everything just to confuse people. And fifth, the Ahle Hadith, they do not just follow one imam in qira'ah, like I've said at the beginning. Many of our imam, they learn the different qira'ah, and they learn the 10 qira'ah and teach them. So we do not restrict ourselves to one qira'ah. So I asked Muhammad Yasir to stop propagating such a video, such falsehood, to make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not to confuse the matters, and this matter is religion. It's not a game or something. It is a serious matter. So their own fuqaha said some of these matters can lead to shirk, some forms of taqleed. So I will conclude this small lecture by this, and we hope may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open the eyes of the Deobandis and their dangerous form of taqleed they're calling to. And may Allah guide us all. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid.